So a little bit about them. For a journey and story that really began some 29 years ago, please let me introduce you and welcome Mike Dickman and Todd Rydstrom, our presenters tonight for the Camino Portugués. Mike and Todd grew up in Iowa, about 30 miles apart, meeting only as young adults at the Quaker Friends House in Des Moines, Iowa, where they both volunteered at Iowa's Gay and Lesbian Resource Center, both staffing a crisis and information helpline. Mike, a former high school exchange student, lived and studied in Spain's Basque Country in the 80s and always wanted to return to Spain someday. Together, Mike and Todd have enjoyed living and working together in Eastern Europe during the 90s, and for the last 20 years have called the Bay Area home. Then about 2 years ago, Todd had the idea to take a walk, a good long walk, as a celebration of his 50th. So he and Mike started to think about, train, read about, and plan for their 2018 journey on the Camino Portugués coastal route. So let's hear it from Mike. Todd will be here soon.
Great.
We're going to pause. We're going to hold questions until after their presentation. And there's a clipboard going around.
Do you want me to pass this around during the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is Julie back here. So if anybody has questions, just raise your hand and this clipboard can be routed around and you can write them down. And then if it's not covered in his presentation, then we'll go over it in the last 15 minutes. And then if we run out of time, then we can cover those offline after this event. So with that said, let's
Great.
Welcome Mike.
All right. Thanks. So Todd really is on his way. We're not just making that up. He's coming from City Hall in San Francisco, and that's always kind of a crapshoot. So last I checked on the app, he was somewhere on the bridge. So we'll let him close up the presentation maybe. But thanks for coming out and hearing more about the Portuguese coastal route. It's just it's a beautiful route, and hopefully everyone's going to get a chance to do this. I met a couple folks here who are training to go out here in a couple of weeks. Or later this fall. Anybody else planning to go out this year on the Portuguese coastal? Okay, oh, perfect. No, okay. But anybody done it before? A few of you done it before, I know as well. Okay, good. So one of the first things I'd mentioned is just, we have this backpack photo up here as our cover slide. I can't recommend the help we got from REI enough. We went over and they did the fittings and they put the weighted things in the backpack and you walk around the store, and that made a huge difference. So if you haven't gotten your backpacks yet, shout out to them. And Laurie, you can see your patch there on mine. So
Nicely placed.
Yeah, just the right spot. And our Oaklandish patches, because we live in Oakland, so we got those. We'd like to start off with the idea that, we're sharing the experiences that we had, but everyone's experience is going to be so different depending on the time of year that you go, and if you're going with a group or going on your own, or lots of different considerations to make, and it really is your Camino. So hopefully, you get some good ideas from this one, but it may look very different depending on how you decide to do it. And we met a lot of people on the route who were either with groups or maybe having their backpacks carried. Some were staying in albergues. We stayed in hotels. I mean, you really can do this any number of ways. And so I think that's the fun part of this, is deciding what's right for you and just being in the moment with it. And then my last thought was, are we really doing this? So it was 162 miles in 13 days, I think it was 14 days. So that was, we had exactly 2 weeks of vacation time, but still working, so that was a little bit of a time challenge. This photo of the tile image of the cherub was taken in the Porto Cathedral, so everything we've got for photos here, except for the map slide that we'll show, is pretty much from the actual photos we took with just an iPhone 6. So I've upgraded it since then, but pretty good pictures for an old phone. So think about, the biggest thing is thinking about getting there. You do all this planning about getting over there. I think that's the hardest part, is do you fly into Lisbon, do you fly into Porto, do you fly into Madrid and take the train? And so we ended up flying from SFO to Porto with a stop in Newark. And then the other thought was to plan as little as is comfortable for you once you get there. That was the hard part, I think, for me, was saying we're not going to have reservations. We're not going to be all set every day with an itinerary. And it actually worked out really well. And the other thought is letting the experience unfold and don't get in your own way. And so the idea being that just kind of live in the moment and take things as they come. I had a picture of the coastal route, and it was a little bit distorted, so I changed this out at the last minute, and I realized I gave you the central route here. So what we're showing is actually not the coastal route. Starting in Lisbon, the yellow one here is the central route that goes all the way up to Santiago and out to Finisterre and back. But what we did is started in Porto, about the middle there, and then went along the coast. Viana do Castelo, we crossed into Spina da Guarda, and then you can go all the way up to Vigo and cross back into the central route. We actually went from Aguarda over to Tui and then caught the central route there to go into Santiago. So there you have it. We just, with the time that we had, that ended up working out the best in terms of getting there and getting started and being on our way. All right, so day one, you'll see a lot of these signs out that the folks have put out there now, so that you got a little better signage than what I've heard has been in years past. So you'll also see a lot of yellow arrow pictures that I'll show in a few minutes, but it's nice to have some of these that are in the cobblestones as well, that have the Camino Portugués coastal route with the shell and the arrow. This is, I think this one was in front of the Porto Cathedral. So day one, we flew into Porto and then did about 8 miles of mostly sightseeing of the things we wanted to see in Porto. And then we went out to Vila do Conde for our first night. And then one of the cool things that was printed in our credential, the Pilgrim credential that we have, and I forgot to bring it tonight, but is like these Pilgrim principles, and the first one is live in the moment. So we were always trying to like read these every day and sort of, you know, live by them as we walked along. But that one I thought was very meaningful on that. And I noticed some friends that we met that got their credentials when they got to Porto, it didn't have the listing in there. And so I've got them at the end here too, so you can see them all together. So flew into Porto. The metro is great. We took the metro. It's very similar to BART. It's really easy to navigate. It's all color coded. And we only had to make one change of trains to get from the airport to the old town. So super easy. And there was someone there to help us at the machines with getting our tickets. That was great. So that helped to not have to be in a taxi or whatever. It was very easy to navigate to the old town. So from the airport to old town on the train. And then we went to the train station first. The old train station is just stunning. It's got amazing tile work in here that tells the story of the history of Portugal. And I thought it was just pretty stunning. And there's lots of layers of tile. They really have a lot of stories to tell here. But you got the ticket window here, the information counter, and it's not that large. It was pretty easy to see in about half an hour and take some photos. And I had to cull about 500 pictures that I really wanted to put into this thing out of this. So I would show you more of the train station if we had time. This is another image of the tile work. It's just beautiful. And so I really wanted to capture some of those and show you some of the amazing tile that we saw. And a lot of the houses are covered in tile or stucco with tile on the outside. So that was great. Picture of us with a selfie, trying to get a picture of the tile there. So from the train station, we then walked up the hill towards the cathedral, and you'll see a lot of pictures of coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker. So I had to stop and get a coffee here, and this is great. So this is kind of midway between the train station and the Porto Cathedral. We got our first stamp. Notice on the side there that it's super hilly. It's a very hilly city, a lot like San Francisco. So it's lots of ups and downs and stairs. But and the other thing I noticed is that there's cobblestones for the first few days that were a little tough after a while. We didn't have as many cobblestone streets or paths when we got into Spain. But if you like coffee, you're going to the right place. All right, and then this is heading up to the cathedral in Porto. It's just up the hill from the train station. It's a landmark. You can see it from just about everywhere in the city. But went up to the cathedral and went in. And then from the kind of portico area on the side, you can see here just an image of some of the housing that's on the other side of the cathedral. There's another church over here that we went to as well, but that's kind of hard to see from the back. But these are all tiled buildings in here as well, kind of a hodgepodge, but it was pretty cool. And then this is in the cloisters that's next to the cathedral. And so I think it was €3 to get into the cathedral and the cloisters here. But we had a chance to kind of just tour through here. You can go upstairs as well. You get great shots of the river from there also. There's Todd leaving eventually at the cloisters, taking a break there. And then our first stamp. So those of you who have done a Camino before, you know how exciting this is. So we have the credencial and it's empty, and we got our first stamp here. So I had to include this one. At the end, you'll see the book full of stamps. But here's the cathedral ticket to enter into the cathedral. It was €3. But that was a pretty big moment, I thought. So from the cathedral, then we went down the hill to another famous spot. which is the Liveria Leia. Have you guys been here? It's so cool. It is, J.K. Rowling lived in Porto for a couple years, and this was supposedly an inspiration for Hogwarts in the Harry Potter series. You have to pay a couple euros to get into the bookstore, but if you buy something, then they refund it back to you. And it's just pretty packed because it's in every tour book now. But the stairways, I take lots of pictures of it, but you come up from the other side, and then you turn and come up this way, and then you go up steps, and then it turns out again for the second story. It was pretty amazing. So it's been open since 1906, and it's definitely a must-see, I think, if you're going to be in Porto for a little while. So that was on our list. But we were trying to figure out when to go to the train station, because we heard so much about that. And of course the cathedral to get our first stamp, we want to go to the bookstore as well, and it was all walking distance once we got off the metro. Then from downtown Porto, we decided to get back on the metro and go out to Vila do Conde, which is one of the first overnight towns. You can do Montesinos or Vila do Conde, and there are these old Roman aqueducts that go for several hundred feet through this little town, and this is pretty much at the end of the metro line getting out of Porto. So it's like a suburban Porto. But it's pretty cool because there's a lot of like just housing blocks and apartment complexes and stuff around it, just around all this amazing history. So it was great to see that. People are walking their dogs along the ruins there. Don't miss these little egg custards. That's also it's a little bit random kind of stream of consciousness here we went through, but these pastéis de nata are an egg custard that are just fantastic, and I wanted to make sure I included that so you could all see it. I think all of you who have done this probably have seen these too, but basically they're a little bit like when you go for dim sum here, the little egg custards you get on the dessert cart, but these are a little sweeter, and so there's another coffee cup, but had a little, they're really little, so it's not like you had lots of coffee. But anyway, so have these when you're in Portugal, because as soon as we crossed into Spain, we stopped seeing them. So it's definitely get your fill in Portugal, and you sort of walk to eat. Basically, was kind of our motto. So yeah, so don't forget those. And then here's a residential neighborhood in Vila do Conde. This is on the way out to the beach from the metro station. This reminded me a little Harry Potter as well, but I thought it was kind of cool with the mansard roof and the tile, and a lot of the homes look very similar, so it was very cool. And then that is first a night in Vila do Conde. All the albergues are right here, pretty much along the river in Vila do Conde. We actually stayed in a hotel right across the river as a convent right here, but very nice small town. It was super easy to get back on the trail again the next day. So that was first night. Then day 2 was our super long day. It was 17 miles. We decided to go from Vila do Conde to Esposende. And so the second saying in the credentials, welcome each day its pleasures and its challenges. And this was definitely a challenge. It was so hot. I think it was 95 that day. They were having a heat wave. It's not normally quite that hot, I don't think, in end of August, beginning of September, maybe it is, but so everyone was at the beach. So it was fun to be on the boardwalks and watching everybody at the beach as we walked by during the day. And there's a little coffee stand there in the background. I think we got water there, but I had to get a picture of the sign. And so Santiago is 212 kilometers from that spot. So anyway, so that one was, again, our longest mileage day, very easy to follow. You're on the coast the whole time from Vila do Conde. It's a great memorial there to the fishermen, and of course the water's right behind it. This is pretty early in the morning, like 8:30, not too many people out at that point. And then a lot of tile images here too, and I took several shots of just the stories. It's like the history of the area in tile, which I thought was kind of cool. So I got a couple pictures there. And then here I am at the beach, and people are just starting to get out to the beach here in the morning. And but you're walking right along, literally, 100 feet from the water the first couple of days. So it's very nice to have that coastal experience, I think, because then we went inland after a couple of days, and we weren't at the beach anymore. Saw a lot of seaweed harvesting, and they're drying it in these rows along the sand, and then they put it in bales, almost like hay bales, and use it for several different uses. But the first couple of days, we just saw more and more people with the seaweed harvesting. I see Todd coming in here now. And then here's the arrows that you're always trying to watch for the arrows, because we were trying not to be too much on our, the maps or the phone, just kind of let it unfold. And so we have the yellow arrow is going towards Santiago, And the blue arrow actually points towards Fatima. And the first couple days you're on the same path with the folks that are going to the Portuguese Fatima route. So we had to make sure that we remembered, because this was our first Camino, that we wanted yellow and not blue, because otherwise you end up getting off the path. There's Todd, come on up.
Hey there.
Hi.
You coming directly from work? I know, look at you all dressed up. All right, so, but it's kind of funny.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So with this one, so with this one, you're kind of looking like the one sign I showed you was in the was steel and it was embedded in the boardwalk. This was just on the back of a stop sign. So you're just kind of walking along and chatting and enjoying and kind of keeping an eye out for the arrows, which was pretty easy. Yeah. Tell about this one.
Yeah, so lots of fun photos. We just kind of want to clip through some of them to give you a flavor for the coastal Portuguese route, because there's so many interesting ones. I had no idea there were so many, quite frankly, until we started to study about it. And so I don't know if Mike shared this already, but we had about 2 weeks of time to get away from our day jobs. And so that kind of governed how much we could do and which route we took. Mm-hmm. And also, we wanted to be able to be meditative during the process too, and go at our own pace. And so this was just some of the beauty that you see along the way, and the windmills along the Portuguese coast.
There's a couple windmills that are B&Bs now too that were further up the strip. And okay, note to self, maybe we'll try and do one of those.
Can you go to that side?
Oh, so we're on the face. I'm gonna move that chair just a little bit. And then this one is a super iconic image. This is exactly what you're walking on for the first, like this would be day 2 for us. But it was on very well maintained boardwalks, and you're just, reminds me a little bit of like Half Moon Bay, Pescadero area, just the coast just south of here a little bit. But, little communities on the right hand side, keep the water on your left and just keep going. And basically that was the day. There's not a lot of shade though, so the heat that we had the second day out there was really intense. They bring the library to the beach. I love this one with the these are converted shipping containers, and it's we're doing a question at the end.
What,
Yeah.
What
Yep.
month were you walking?
Yeah, this was end of August, beginning of September. Yep. So we have the beach library here, and so I thought that was pretty cool. And people are hanging out reading at the beach. I just thought that was great. So anyway, Ramona, I know you would like that one. So it's great. Then just fishing boats along the coast. We're just still walking north. And then later in the day, it was great to have these pines, because we sat down here for a little while and just like went through the books, and we were having a drink of water, just taking a break and kind of reflecting a little bit. But that would be about 5 miles south of Esposende.
This was one day that kind of surprised me, because we were studying it. We wanted nice weather if we could get it. We ended up getting really lucky. It never rained once when we were out walking, that is, except for a little spittle, and it was still nice.
Yeah.
But this day was exceptionally hot, and I didn't realize that the intensity of the sun was as hot as it was. We must have drank at least 5 gigantic things of water, because we were sweating so much.
Very hydrating.
It was about a 17-mile day, so it wasn't that long, but just the intensity of the sun was more than I would have guessed.
Yep. Yeah. Here is coming into Esposende. I like some of the houses that we saw, and this tree just looks so windswept. The beach is right over here, so I'm sure it just gets pounded by the wind. But another example of some of the housing. And then sun setting Esposende at the beach, and so that is the end of day 2. And then day 3, we started on Esposende, and we went to Viana do Castelo. And this is actually almost as long of a day. It was only 1 mile shorter, 16 miles, but it didn't seem nearly as intense, because there was a lot more shade and it was quite a bit cooler. And the saying today is the Make Others Feel Welcome.
Yeah,
So
it was really fun. We started to take on the chants almost of the spirit of the Camino, and the key phrases, and so you'll see them throughout here. And we started to memorize a new one every day, and then repeat it as part of a kind of a meditative process, and it was really enjoyable. And so we try to still continue to do that in our days today now post Camino.
You're living in the moment today while you're on the bridge, so it's good.
That's right.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
You do, right, yeah. It was Sunday morning here. A lot of the churches were closed throughout the week, and so we try and go in, but a lot of them just weren't open. And this one, I cropped the top of the picture because it was basically 4 loudspeakers at the top. I didn't have anything on top of it. But this, I thought that was just beautiful. Just very simple little village churches that are out there. And then I wanted to bring this roof in just because I thought it was so cool. It was almost got an Asian flair to it with the finials and the edges on it. And I've got a lot of pictures of houses with tile covering them, and then the Spanish tile on the roofs. This church was open, and we actually stopped in because we stopped for water, I think it was, and one of the guys that was there was like, "Oh, come on in, our church is open today," so we did. And that was open. I have a picture of the inside here just a little bit later. This one reminded me of Eastern Europe a little bit with the dome. But so that was one that we got to actually go through. Here I am seeing signs. There's a yellow arrow right there. You have to look for them sometimes. And that one up there is a more recent one with the shell and the arrow that was up there. So we're going through the villages, kind of out into the woods, lots of eucalyptus trees up here. And this is just a little bit up from the coast. So to Esposende was right on the boardwalks, and then the next day from Esposende to Villa de Conde we went uphill just a little bit, and you could see the ocean down below, but it wasn't right on the beach on the third day. And then feeling the spirit of those who have gone before you. Here's lots of stickers from people that they left behind. I wish I had one of the shell ones that I could have left Laurie, but I didn't have an extra one. But anyway, so there's lots of folks who have gone before you there.
During different parts of the journey, it can get very emotional as well, and so I mean, just be open, I think, and ready for that. You'll have your own experiences, but it's very special.
So from cobblestones to boardwalks to this little wooded path here, which was great. And then here we see one of the signs that actually had Fatima written on it as well, but they get, 4 million visitors, I think I was reading the other day. And I'm not sure how many people actually walk there, but it was well marked the first couple of days, both directions. And a little later you'll see it diverging, the blue's going one way and the yellow's going the other. And this is crossing the River Neva on Old Stone Bridge. If you are on any of the Facebook pages, like the Camino Portugués, you'll see this picture all the time, people crossing this bridge, it seems like. So it was great that we get to cross that one as well. But fun to see that, and again, just a pedestrian bridge. A lot of little shrines to St. James out there too that we saw on here and there, and so that was kind of great. It was just below someone's house that they had set up. And this is the inside of that church, and look at the tile along the side. It was pretty cool to see all of that Portuguese tile on the side, just a simple wooden roof, and that was kind of cool. Now some of these, the couple churches that were open, most of them had the stamps that you could do your credential, and then you could leave a donation, and sometimes they had cookies or something out, the few that were open. This house, I had a lot of house pictures.
Yeah, we love architecture.
Looking at houses.
And like it's one of the few times, like when you're walking, you have plenty of time to look at things and enjoy it. So like, if you've ever done the walks through the city or anywhere, it's so special because you might have driven that road for 20 years and it just, you haven't noticed that house or that street or that stairway, sidewalk, and street.
Yep. I had to have a Dr. Seuss quote in here, but I like the rock Karen there too. Just going to the forest, and you come out of the forest and you're on a little street and you see some houses and you get back in the forest again. So it's pretty varied terrain. Oh, and here's the path diverging. So then Fatima's going that way, and then we wanted to go that way towards Santiago. And a lot of gardens. I take a lot of pictures of grapes and figs and kiwi and all kinds of kitchen gardens that were out there. And this is kind of cool because they had the old stone props that held up their vine wires there.
And a favorite was the Padron peppers.
Yeah.
It's like this is where they're from, the
So
Padron
good.
area, and it was so amazing to see it be in season and getting to order that.
And just watching for the signage, that was a street sign, of course, but I've noticed even some of the signs for drivers even have the Santiago routes on them now. And here's the one for pedestrians that we're pretty used to seeing by now. But that was pretty striking that they have those out there as well. And this is coming into Villa de Conde, and this bridge was designed by Gustave Eiffel. It's pretty cool. It's got a rail line below it, and so it was kind of fun to come across it and know that we were almost done for the day at that point. But it's got a super narrow pedestrian walkway, so just be careful on it. But you look pretty happy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then coming in, we had a little apartment that we stayed in on this night in Old Town, Viano de Castello, and I thought it was cool with the umbrellas that they had up in the summer. And then, okay, this is interesting. So you're at dinner. So we have this routine that you get into where you get to wherever you're staying at night, get a shower, do your laundry because you got to have like one set of clothes that's drying while you go to dinner. because you only have like 2 or 3 things to wear really. And then we go to dinner so early that we're the only ones there. So it's 7 p.m. and we get lots of attention because, first of all, there's no one else on the street having dinner. By the time we left, and it's probably 8:30, it was just packed, and so every table was full at that point. But we got used to just having dinner really early, and by local people standards, I guess. And then this was coming back at night after dinner. Beautiful old streets, and one of the things that you had up there was about doing a headlamp too, which I thought was good.
Yeah, one of us is more of an early bird than the other one of us, and so but there's a lot of benefit to that, especially if it's the heat of the day, and it makes a big difference. And so I appreciated it, but you really did adjust your clock, and so you didn't see the activity of nightlife that you might otherwise, because we would tend to go to bed at 9 o'clock, so we'd be up super early, and so but that's just our routine. So.
And then day 4, we started in Viana do Castelo, and we went to Vila Praia de Ancora. That was 13 miles, and the saying today is share. It was a little foggy that morning, looking out the window, and it drizzled just a tiny bit, but not bad. So we didn't need to get the rain ponchos out or anything. So beautiful old town, view here. Spanish tile roofs, pretty familiar. And then we got into the countryside, and we started seeing these random ultra-modern homes out in the country. They must be weekend homes. I had to get a picture of that. I thought it was just beautiful. There's a pool up here. Anyway, I guess just struck me. And then you walk, right next to it is a 13th century, chapel or something. And then just walking down some of these paths, one of the things we noticed is that if we had been driving through here, we would have never seen half of these things, because these are just pedestrian paths. A tractor might go by. I don't know if you can even get a car through here in some of these. And so it was pretty special just to be like in the, in these areas where you wouldn't otherwise see it without being on foot. And this is a kiwi vine that was trained up there. And next to the modern house was this very old chapel. It's kind of cool, just kind of random here and there. And next to this place was this place. Isn't it amazing? It just struck me so much that they have all this modern architecture now in with the older stuff. I had to get a picture of the cobblestones because there's so many cobblestones. It seemed like the first couple of days, so that got a little bit old, but lots of cobblestones.
Before we went, we didn't really understand how to read and interpret kind of the guidebooks or travel books. Now we do. I mean, it does go through and tell you the different types of surfaces and how many distances by stage or by day. That became really helpful. And I would say we probably did a third to a quarter on cobblestone, a third on paved street, a third on maybe a quarter to a third on dirt paths.
Yep.
And then a couple of them were just right on the side of the highway. Not a lot in this route, but those guidebooks were really helpful because they explained that, and it made sense on like day 2 or day 3. But until you experienced it, it just wasn't natural
And
for us.
this coastal road is not that hilly. You're not going over the Pyrenees, so we ended up sharing walking poles. That was one thought that I wanted to have one once in a while, but I didn't really want both and be carrying them or have one thing. So we actually just took one pair with us. And then here, this is really cool. This old tile, lots of tile pictures here, but got that one, and then just an old farmhouse that was beautiful. And then the convent. Pronounce it, but 13th century convent that we walked by, and luckily it had a lot of signs that said what it was, because it just looked like it was just kind of in the jungle here almost, and but that was kind of cool too to see that. Not open, of course. And then someone's garden gate, lots of red wine grapes there in the background. And then overnight in Vila Praia de Ancora. The church in the square is lit up beautifully at night in the summer. We went in because it was open, but we couldn't get a stamp or anything, and it was just, I don't know what they were doing. But then we had dinner at night out in the square, and it was about 8:45, so there were a few people there with us by that time. But the lighting was just gorgeous on this place. Some photos of that. All right, day 5, Vila Praia de Ancora to Aguarda. Now we're crossing into Spain on our day 5. So this will be our last day in Portugal. And then we weren't quite sure if we had enough time to do the full coastal route from Aguarda and rejoin the Central. So we took a city bus to Tui and then started our Camino again from Tui, the last 100 kilometers in from there on the Central route. So we got 11 miles walking in, although it's probably 21 or so miles with the bus. And the saying today was, feel the spirit of those who've gone before you. And here you can see the last day of the, that we'll see the Fatima arrows. And so once we get into Spain, it's all yellow arrows.
we were a little torn because the coastal route was just so beautiful, but also the route up from Tui is remarkable as well, and so there's not a bad choice.
And we made so many friends from Tui as well. Because I would say we didn't, we ran into people that were pilgrims. You say Bon Camino, they'd say Bon Camino, but we really started meeting people and walking with a lot of other people from Tui for whatever reason. So,
yeah, because we would see like 3 to 6 people on the days, the early days.
Yeah.
And then, but when you got to Tui in the central route, we saw a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it just more popular.
This was a button that the hotel that we stayed at gave out, and again, we were fully expecting to do albergues, and then it's so easy to use that Booking.com app and just stay in a hotel.
But I really liked it because it had albergues as well. It had every kind of
And an apartment a couple
apartments,
times.
and so it was really very nice.
Last day at the beach. Last day at the beach, closed out. It's like 8 in the morning there, so they're not open yet for the day. But look at that coastline; it was super rugged out there. And then some of the vertical signs are really helpful too, and so it wasn't just embedded in the cobblestones, but this was one of the examples of where it was actually a kind of a stand-up sign. Fishermen out here. Wanted to buy a house at that point and stay. House for sale. I love this tile. Very odd, not odd, but geometric pattern. And the whole house had the same tile on it. That was a cool one too. I got a close up of that one.
You'll see several tile pictures, and it is remarkable. They really perfected tile work in that country.
Like you remember to hydrate on this one. These old fountains were shut down permanently, but I thought it was kind of cool, so I got a photo of them with the faces and more tile. Okay, then Camino is the last town, the last stop in Portugal before you cross the bay into Spain. And the ferry you see behind me looks awesome, but it was broken down. So
we took a tiny boat
we took a water
across
taxi.
these very rough waters, and so it's part of the adventure.
I got soaked, but it was the people, and there was a big line waiting for the ferry to go across, and most people had cars. I think they wanted to take across on the car part of it, but they said, well, we can take on a water taxi, and it's a couple of euro or something. So a couple other pilgrims and this guy with a couple kids and bicycles, and we got on the water taxi and made it across. But you see how rough it was here at the coast. A couple of those images I showed, well, it's the same way crossing that thing. So it was a little crazy getting across, but we did it, and then we were excited to be in Spain at that point. And that's actually Spain in the background there. All right, so we get over, and then we start following the yellow arrows again. There's one there. I like your sentence on that one. You chose your path.
Yeah,
That's good.
and it's pretty well marked. Once in a while you can veer off here and there, but and that on occasion there are just a couple of more scenic routes or the more traditional routes. And so we kind of just chose as we went along.
Yeah. So from the boat, from the coast of Agordo, it's very forested, and you come into the town of Agorda, and you can have padron peppers. So this was high season for padron peppers, just on the grill, a little bit of sea salt. They're just fantastic. And we saw farmers harvesting these on like the next day. I think it was like 2 more weeks left in the season, so we have padron peppers all the time. Really good. And then octopus here. I think there was a egg over it or something, but the octopus was fantastic. The pulpo. So lots of that. And then that is the harbor in Agorda in the old town, and from there we took the bus over to Tui. So beautiful. This is a Monday, I think, so it's pretty quiet. And then got into Tui, went to the cathedral, got a stamp there, and then the house we stayed in was an old 15th century home that had like 10 rooms, and this was on the property. I thought it was kind of a cool house. And that's the little house that we stayed in. But that's looking back into Portugal, and so that was our last Portugal view.
Tui is magical. I wish I could have stayed a couple.
We would have stayed an extra day there if we had time. It's so many people are starting from Tui because it's the last 100 kilometers if you want to get to Compostela on the route. So I thought that was probably why there was more crowds maybe, but there's a great energy there. All right, day 6. So from Tui we had to leave, and we went on to Operinho, and we did 13 miles on day 6. And the next saying is, imagine those who will follow. That was pretty powerful too. It was good. And then you start seeing, because we're in Galicia now, we start seeing the markers that give you the kilometers left. I think that was actually in Aguarda if you were taking the coastal route, because we were only 100 kilometers out at that point. But those were really helpful as well as we're counting down towards Santiago, and it got to be more and more exciting as we got into single digits. So looking out from Tui over the rooftops there in the morning. I call it the Pilgrim photo op. And this really cool sculpture that's cut out with the Pilgrim with the staff and the gourd, the water gourd. And so got a picture of that. And you're walking on the old Roman roads at that point. So you have a lot of Via Romana signs there that call that out.
It was really unique because you walk along and you'd see where the old chariot wheels have gone for 1,000+ years, and there were just these worn ridges in the cobblestone.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then this one, we walked. You're walking a little bit on a highway just for a short time, and I didn't get any pictures of that, of course, because it wasn't that interesting. But then you turn up this path, and it was just gorgeous. So I got a picture of that, all the ferns and the trees. Oh, we stopped for coffee. Surprise! And have a coffee, read the map. This was great too because we had a chance to chat with people a little bit too who were also there doing the same thing. And this is when we started really meeting people, was after Tui. And the first couple we met was from Pleasanton, which was kind of ironic. The second couple was from LA, so that was kind of funny too. But anyway, then we started meeting other people. But have a coffee. We have the guidebook out here. Laurie, I've got the stickers on the poles there, if you can see them kind of up the top. And we had to surrender those in Santiago at the airport because they would let us take them out. But anyway, we donated them. We donated them, yeah.
Because they weren't collapsible?
No, we didn't have them checked, and so we just didn't want to go back and check them again.
And they were well used, so it was time for donation.
Yeah, one of them was completely worn
Didn't you
down.
just get more from Costco?
Yes.
They have the best walking sticks.
That's why we had to get more.
So.
Yeah. Just different images here outside of Tui. This one I thought was cool with the seed corn and then the grapes. So it's really fall, almost fall, there at that point. So it looks like we can go back and have some of the wine eventually here. But the old stone supports for the grape arbors. And again, it just looked like everybody's little farmhouse had, their own pretty good sized plot of different fruits and vegetables, wine grapes. Imagining those who will follow. We're walking along the grapevines here. There's a little creek on this side. Be careful on that one because it's a little bit narrow. Oh, and then in El Perino, this might have been our worst place that we stayed. I found a picture of it. It's right next to a funeral chapel, and there we didn't know, of course, when we booked it, but we live in the moment, and our balcony looked right out on the chapel. They had an outdoor chapel. They were doing all kinds of different, services. So we went into town then and had dinner. And then day 7, we went from El Perino to Redondela, 13 miles. And this saying today is appreciate those you walk with today. And that was a good one too.
I think that one's become the most meaningful because all of us tend to be a little bit too busy or rushed. And so to pause and think about the ones you walk alongside today or with today. And it's such a powerful, I think, phrase to be able just to pause with.
Yeah. They got the old and new markers here. The old stone one, and then it looked like they were going to put a permanent one in here. It was paper with a couple of sticks for now, but marking the route. This was one morning that we climbed. We did climb quite a bit out of El Perino, but then we got some amazing views looking out towards Redondela in the distance. And there were some folks on mountain bikes that we would see periodically as well that were doing the Camino also, but even on this one downhill, even the cyclists got off and walked down because it was super steep going down, so it was nice to have a walking pole for that one. Remember that? That was our cover image for the show, but looking up into Redondela there. And then we started seeing these oreos, they're called. They're oak grain bins. And I love how they preserve them. They're just right in the middle of Redondela here. And they would keep the grain up to dry and keep it away from rats and other rodents, I guess, way back in the day. And that was in Redondela. We had dinner out here at an outdoor cafe. And there's a picture of St. James in that fountain image. And of course the water is not potable. We had to be careful with some of the water fountains because some of them were not drinkable and some were. And then another one of the old granaries, the Oreos, right in the middle of town as we walked out. Redondela's right on a river as well, and had a great little park here, and they had bands. It was kind of fun here there. All right, then 8 and 9, we finally got our rest day in Pontevedra. And so we decided to take an extra day in Pontevedra. I'm glad we did. We did 15 miles and we had a rest day. So we decided to take an extra day because by that point we knew we were going to have enough time to get to Santiago and have 2 nights in Santiago. So we were like, okay, we can slow down just a little bit now if we want to. And we probably could have done the whole coastal route now that we look back on it. But
yeah, but I think I would encourage a rest day after 7 or 8 days because you just do want to give yourself just a little bit of time. And what a great place to stay. That would be another one to spend a couple nights in Ponte Vedra.
I like the old and the new here. There's this old building waiting to be restored, and it's got the yellow arrows. So we cross, there's a light here, and we cross and keep going out of town. And then I like this one too with the shells, where people have left their wishes on them. There's some photographs here, some different notes they put in, and so I got a picture of that. You see these every couple of days, it seemed like, at different spots. And that was looking towards Ponte Vedra in the distance, and we're, walking. It was uphill a little bit and on a kind of a shady path, and then on this kind of mountain road, and then all of a sudden we walked into a shepherd with his goats, and so all these goats are crossing the road. I got a picture of them in the background here, and they were so cute. And then there's a yellow arrow right there, and the shepherd had a minivan that he was driving. I don't know. He must have been getting them across the road and then going down to meet them at the next spot or something. But it's kind of fun. They're really cute. Another one of the grain storage bins there. This is an old Roman bridge that we're coming up to Ponte Sampaio, and it's built on pilings that date back to Roman times. You cross that, and it's a single file bridge, or there's only one lane for cars. Cars still do use it. So yeah, I was taking pictures and trying to watch for cars, but yeah, that was beautiful. And then back into the woods again, out of the village and up into the trees. And lots of water fountain pictures, just a water stop. And then you saw the goats earlier. These are goat cheese. It's fried goat cheese. It was so good. So stopped for a late lunch in Ponte Vedra, and we had these goat cheese lollipops, which was great. And then there's several different cathedrals in Ponte Vedra, but this one I thought was cool because it's shaped like a shell, and so it's the Chapel of the Peregrina. And so we got some pictures in there. I actually climbed up to the top of this one, and they had to pay a donation. You climb all the stairs up to the top. There's Todd down in the front row there.
Not climbing to the top.
Yeah.
I have a heights issue.
Yeah.
So.
We did that in Barcelona a couple years ago, and it wasn't good. But from below, you can see where I was climbing up here. You can go up the top there. And then the stained glass windows have a lot of shell images, and the staffs and the gourds. It's kind of cool. See one of those.
You'll see a few pictures of the churches. I would say the folks we met, probably equal folks that were doing it for fitness and fun, for family bonding, for spiritual, and then for religious purposes.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see the mix of folks and their motivation.
Some families with their college-age kids, and some singles and couples, and yeah, lots of groups. Here's walking to eat. So great. Oh my gosh. Just a little outdoor cafe that we stopped at, and had all kinds of good things. And we watched a wedding go by. Here's the newlyweds on the Vespa. That was fun.
It's so neat to see them going by the
behind the Peregrino guy with the backpack, the whole family was coming along here too. It was fun. Yep. And then that's the pulpo, the octopus there, and just sitting outside enjoying it. This is it was great to have that extra day. That was nice.
And it's just such a gift if I have to show of hands of who's all done the Camino already.
Or a segment.
Okay, or a segment. So those of you who did not raise your hand, look at those folks. They're your experts, so you can ask them questions too. It's unique for everybody. And so what did you want, and what did you want to do and get? And what was so special, I think, as well, is it allowed us to actually pause and move at the pace of life. And just reflect on having coffee and watching people and seeing that those newlyweds go by, and we don't get to do that during our regular day. So what a gift if you can jump off the gerbil wheel and just allow yourself to do that.
Then day 10 was Ponte Vedra onto Caldas de Reis, 15 miles. Started really early. This is one of the first pictures I could get with a little bit of daylight. So we used a headlamp. I had a headlamp. I don't think we brought one, but we needed it that morning. We just were up early and ready to go. Probably because we had one day off, so then we were really ready to go. And then Todd says 2 smaller breakfasts are always better than a bigger one. I like a big breakfast too, but this was one of the places we stopped out in the countryside for a sandwich and a coffee. And then it was too early to buy wine, but I love that sign. For sale, white and red wine, and then had the yellow arrow as we passed by. This was exciting. I took this from a freeway overpass, so it's a little bit grainy, but 40 kilometers to Santiago. And on the freeway even, they have the shell image, and that was kind of fun. There's no walkers out there on the freeway, but anyway. Another water stop. Grapes for harvesting with the farmhouse in the background. To go back in, that'll be wine someday, sure. These are some friends that we met It was Fernando's 50th as well as Todd, and it was actually his 50th birthday on that day. And so we stopped at a place that they brought some cake out for you guys. And our friends Cindy and Cecilia were from Texas. And we ended up walking with these, well, 4, because we don't have Maria in the picture on this one yet, but we walked for about 4 days together and walked into Santiago.
And there's Maria on the right.
There she is.
This was a real special trio, 3 gals from Texas and friends for 50 plus years, and they all wanted to walk it together. So they left their various partners at home, and they didn't care to go.
Yeah.
And just did it. I thought, how fun is that?
And Fernando came out from Puerto Rico with a big group from Puerto Rico and did the walk too, which is great. All right, day 11, we went from Caldas de Reis to Padrón, 12 miles. Padrón, the home of the peppers. And walking out of Old Town Caldas de Reis, beautiful old buildings here. It's funny to see Camino advertising now too. I thought that was kind of weird, but for the Spanish Bureau Estrella de Galicia, so I thought that was kind of funny. Church in the morning there, and then Ultreya is another Camino greeting, which that was kind of cool.
So you'll hear this occasionally along with the Buen Camino and others, and it means to go beyond or go
Keep
a little
going.
deeper and heading onward.
There's Todd and our friend Maria in the distance there. Squash ready for harvesting. Oh, this is the best
More
lunch.
padron peppers.
Padron peppers and French fries and fried eggs.
I recommend it.
I recommend it. See your cardiologist, yeah. And then Padron had a great little park here. And the river that supposedly St. James's body came up on the stone boat up this river to this spot. Yeah.
The stone boats.
Yeah, right, yeah. And so it was kind of a cool story. And so we went to up the steps there, and there's this kind of wearing off now, but there's an image of St. James's body in the boat and the river. Here's how I say it's your own Camino. These guys, they were so funny. They had the backpack service, and they would just do Uber, and they'd meet us at dinner. And so here they are getting out of this little Volkswagen in front of the church.
Their own
I thought that was
Camino.
so
I thought
cute.
that was like so neat. I
Yeah.
hadn't thought, well, of course you could take a car service if you're in the middle of nowhere and
Yeah.
had blisters, and then just have the car service take you back the next morning to that spot.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, I never thought of that.
And these gals, that was their Camino, and so
And very seriously,
They
they said,
celebrate.
Yeah, they said, you
Yeah.
guys don't need to carry those backpacks.
you really don't.
And we were like, what? Anyway, so that was funny. But then day 12 was Padrón de Teo. We had a picture of a bunch of us there with our shadows.
Just do what's right for you.
Yeah.
You'll know what's best for you.
I like how even the water, this water system had the little shell images on them when you get closer to Santiago. Fig tree. Be open to wonderful and don't get in your own way. I like that one.
Yeah,
good.
that's a good one
Yeah.
to remember. Any day.
Yep. So day 13, Teo de Santiago. Now you could do Padrón de Santiago in one day, but it'd be a long day. So we stayed in Teo the last night out on the Camino. It's suburban Santiago. It's only like 11 miles in, but we still had 11 miles the last day. And when you come into Santiago, there's the river path and the city path, and we took the city path in. But that was the only time that we had 2 choices, I think, on the same route. And there you can see the cathedral in the distance. So learning from and sharing with the ones you walk alongside today. You kind of
Just getting a chance to talk to people and visit with people, how incredible. And you just will talk for a minute or 20 or, meet up with the same people randomly over the course of a couple of days. And it's just a really special experience.
We have a lot of pictures of all 6 of us coming in together as well, but I wanted to make sure we had a couple here of us, and then the cathedral was open. This was kind of cool. They only normally do the Botafomeiro Mass on, Saturday and Sunday maybe, but because this big group walked in with us, they paid to have the Botafomeiro done on a Thursday. So we were glad that we walked in with us. It was Carly or something was the name of the group, but they had like 100 people that were on a group tour. And so the guys were doing the incense burner at the end. This thing's about 5 feet high. It was huge. I got a great video of it, but that was great to see it on a Thursday. That was the one mass that we went to. And that's another mural. And they got one last mural here with the tile. It was kind of fun. That was in the Parador. We had lunch at the Parador.
And they carried on the tradition for the first 12 pilgrims, I think, that come to town. They give them free lunch. And so as long as you're the early birds and get in, I suppose you might be able to benefit from that, but it's really
Kind
nice.
of cool, yeah. So here's some of our preparation and equipment. Duolingo I thought was fantastic for Portuguese and for Spanish. It's free. That was a great app, I think, and I'm practicing my Spanish now because we're planning to go back to Spain next summer for part of the Norte route. The Tiger Tail Mini Roller, Catherine and Rhoda, my cycling friends here, you know, we have these foam rollers that we always are using to, you know, work out lactic acid in your muscles, and we couldn't take a 5-foot, you know, foam roller on the Camino, but this little tiger tail roller looks like a little rolling pin. I got it at REI, and you could roll out your muscles. It was so worth taking in that backpack. I would put a big plug in for that. Walking poles, walking sticks, of course. Second pair of light sandals. The Wi-Fi, the smartphone. I have AT&T on my home phone, and they had a plan that was $10 per day when I needed it. So I didn't buy a plan or buy a SIM card over there. I just ended up saying, you know, if I turned it on and I wasn't using the Wi-Fi at an inn or something, then it would just pay $10 for the day. So that was a pretty good deal too.
And if you want it, because I 100% did not want to take a phone or have a digital device, but I was so thrilled that my walking partner did.
That's how we got pictures.
Because that was our pictures.
Yes.
And so now I'm going backwards. And then at the end of each day, we'd also write down the reflections of the day.
Yep.
And so then we started on that. We'd have to have scraps of paper.
So pastéis de nata we talked about in Portugal. Don't miss them, because if you leave Portugal, you won't see them. The pulpo, the octopus was great. We use the Booking.com app. I fully intend to stay in albergues next time. I think at least part of it, but we did hotels this time. This was excellent. The night that we had an extra night in Pontevedra, El Tenedor is like an open table app, and you can book restaurants. And so once we knew where we were going to be that night, and I really wanted to get into a place, you could try it. I mean, a lot of times we had just really simple stuff. We bought stuff from the grocery store or whatever, but if you want to go out, you want to make sure you get a reservation. And then linking the Apple Pay card for convenience was good too. This was one of the best restaurants, I thought, in Santiago, Restaurante San Jaime.
Yeah.
And it was upstairs above a tourist shop, and it was just out of this world. And then they have this band, Tuna de Derecho, that plays in Cathedral Square at night, and we got their CD, and we went a couple nights to see them. It was really fun. Watch people come in. And then live music, I'd say at least 2 or more nights in Santiago if you can. And then the Brierley's Guide, which I know we were passing around here earlier. We used a Camino Portugués map. It was Marms, Dinteman, and Lindis. And then we used an app called the Wise Pilgrim. It was like $4.99, I think, to download. And then, of course, the Facebook group and the local Peregrinos group. And I thought Susan Alcorn's book was fantastic, Healing Miles. It's not about the Portuguese route, but I got a lot out of it. And I know you liked it.
And lots of
as
good
well,
tips
so.
in the back of it too. I think Susan and Ralph have done 28 different segments over 20 plus years. And so it was very, very helpful insights.
Okay, we're almost going to get the hook here. So here is all of the parts of the credential that are on the back page if you order the credencial before you go, which was great. The cathedral at night. And then there are the credencials all filled up. So we got our compostelas. And it's fun to go back and look at these now, because it was, some of these places we really remembered, and others I was like, where was that? But it was great.
It was a lot of fun, but this is about you too, and so what do you want to know more about? What questions can we help answer, or the experts that you saw raise their hand next to you?
Well, I think Laurie has got the questions that folks wrote down, so we want to make sure we maybe go through those first, or how do you want to do this?
Actually, let's just take a couple questions from the audience right now. I'll compare that.
Where's that posada that you stayed in?
Which one's that?
The posada. Which one is that?
Oh, yeah, that was in, let's see, I think that was Pontevedra. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And we had one question in the front about places to get water. And so there were some to fill up, but there was also plenty of little markets just to buy, and water was very reasonable, so.
We brought recyclable bottles and filled them up where we could.
We tried to
yeah.
wherever we could.
How much disadvantage while you were in Portugal was the absence of Portuguese?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I was a little worried about that, but having some Spanish too was great, because it seemed to me like most folks understood Spanish very well.
Yes,
even
but
though
don't they
Portuguese,
respond to you in Portuguese?
Oh, yes.
That's been my experience in the past. And
I think
I'm
they just
like,
took pity on
they
me after a
understood
while.
me, but I didn't understand the
Right.
answer.
Right, exactly. But they're so set up for the Pilgrim, crowds, I think, too, or tourists. So they're pretty reasonable.
And we
about
tried
that.
to have at least 5 or 10 words down, so we tried, so.
I was getting pretty good with Duolingo, but yeah. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
did you have a question?
So on the piece that you walked, were there enough albergues that you could have stayed in albergue every night?
Yeah.
every night.
Yeah,
Mhm,
and some
every
of
night.
them were really nice,
Yep.
and I was like, that'd be so cool to stay in and
Mhm,
try. And so
mhm,
I
mhm.
definitely would want to do it again.
And do you have a sense, cause, I mean, you know, there's, you don't get there in time, you won't get a bed, like you know, do you have a sense of, it sounds like it's
You know, hearing
more
from
likely
people that were
locked
staying in the
there.
albergues, they weren't having big issues with that, because it seemed like there was enough with the municipal and then like 2 or 3 private ones too that were
Yeah, and the
in some
time
of those
of
towns.
year, we
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
there the first half
Mhm,
of September,
mhm, mhm.
and so I think that made the difference. If it
Yeah.
would have been in August or July, I think it could have been a very different story.
Mhm. Yeah.
One in the
Right.
back.
Oh, back. Sorry.
Do you mind going back a few slides? It was your last recommendation slide.
Oh, yeah.
This one, yeah.
This one's guidebooks and directions, and I'll go back to the next one in a sec here.
Dick, did you have a
Dick?
question?
Oh, yeah, I do. The stretch between Viana do Castillo and Ancora, was
Mhm.
that, I see in the book, there's one right on the coast, and then there's the blue one, which is, I don't know, 10 miles inland. Which of those two?
We were on the coastal
coast.
one, yeah, and so it was just a little bit above the water. It wasn't right on the boardwalks like it was from the Villa de Conde, but we could still see the water periodically. So yeah.
But
yeah.
some of the guidebooks are a little confusing, they were to me anyway, and so eventually we
That's why I was glad we had
Yeah.
3, because it seemed like there was a little bit of conflict. Once in a while, there was a little conflicting information. I thought in some of the in one of the books it was different from the other, and so.
and especially in Portugal, because literally we wouldn't see anybody, and then
Mhm.
we'd run into one person and then 2
Mhm.
people during that couple, you know.
I wonder if
days.
most folks did the central route. Maybe that's what it
Yeah.
was. But yeah. But from Tui, there was lots of people. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a comment. So you were saying it was kind of hot early part of September,
Mhm.
and I was in Spain 2016, early part of September, 95 every day.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So
yeah,
often
yeah.
the first 2 weeks of September
Yeah.
can be very hot in that area.
Yeah.
First 2 weeks of May, I've been in Portugal,
Yeah.
and it can be raining every day.
Cold. Oh,
First 2
yeah.
weeks of May, then the second 2 weeks, they'll be fine.
Oh, nicer.
And,
Yeah.
and a couple of times I've been in Europe in the southern part, first 2 weeks of May, and it's raining, so.
Yep. I was thinking with the coastal too. You know, we had one really hot day, and the rest of it was pretty temperate. So maybe it's coastal. I don't know, but
Yeah.
versus inland. But yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
From the list here, did you get back to Lisbon by bus or?
Oh yeah. So we actually flew out of Santiago.
Oh.
And I forgot to put that in the end. But yeah. So from Santiago, we flew from Santiago to Frankfurt direct to SFO. Yeah.
Okay.
So we hit it just right on the timing for that because it was very reasonable. So,
Well, and we
yeah.
wanted to maximize our walking too, and so
Yeah.
I would have loved to have taken a train somewhere, you know, else, but just for this trip, we really had 2 weeks there.
I was trying to get Norwegian to Barcelona direct and then take a flight from there, but we couldn't quite get that
Yeah.
to work from Barcelona. So yeah.
There was a nice bus from Santiago to Porto.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good to
it was
know.
like $16.
Or the
Is that
train,
correct?
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to go to TUI.
No.
And the bus actually goes all the way from Porto to like Bordeaux. It has like this one path. It's
Nice.
called Flixbus. Flixbus.
Okay.
And so the one from Santiago to Porto, you could go direct, huh?
Yeah.
And that, was that the Flix?
Yeah, afterwards I'll show you.
I took that because I did the Camino Portuguese Central route, and so I took a bus from Santiago all the way to Lisbon, and it took about 10 hours. We hit some traffic going into Lisbon.
Uh-huh.
So it was pretty at first, but then it was like so long being on a bus.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So how much did the hotels tend to be?
Anywhere from maybe €35 to 90, maybe. It wasn't.
Everything seems so
Yeah.
affordable compared to
Yeah.
here. And so, yeah, even like the very nicest place, I think was like
We got a Parador for 2 nights. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like
$80 or
I think
$90.
because it was at.
$80.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Which
Not in
Parador?
Santiago. That we couldn't get near that place for under
Right.
$300, but it was the other
Which
ones.
Parador?
We went to the one in Pontevedra.
Oh,
It was
nice.
stunning.
That was
yeah.
the double night
yeah.
one, so it
and
was
Dick,
a
that
double
posada, I misspoke on that posada. That posada is actually called as de Reis.
Is what?
Is that posada was called as de Reis.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Now that I said Pontevedra, it's actually
Oh,
called as de Reis.
question?
I see that Portuguese is in Duolingo, but it shows Brazil. Is that the version that you used when you were learning Portuguese?
I
from
think it
Duolingo?
was. I think it was the only one that they had available. So yeah.
And it was fine.
It was fine, yeah.
I just
For my
thought-
I was trying to get like numbers and please and thank you and basic stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're probably like, oh my god, those guys. Yeah. So.
You're drinking a lot of coffee. Were there enough restrooms on the stop?
Yeah,
Luckily, yes.
I kind of wondered about that too, because I was thinking like a lot of nature.
Yeah.
But never once, because it's just little villages here and there. But also, you sweat a lot.
Yeah.
And so you just mainly have to really make sure you're drinking more than what you otherwise would.
But we stopped in every town practically.
Every town, we
use the
enjoyed the
restroom, buy a
coffee,
bottle of
got
water,
some water.
fill our water bottle at the
Yeah.
fountain or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody asked, avoiding the industrial part from Tui north.
I think we missed it
Overrated.
all from Tui north. I think
Oh,
we missed
yeah.
it all together because
There was a little bit of one, but we walked by it, I think.
Ocarino, I thought, had a little bit of an industrial stretch.
It's
there,
very
too.
industrial.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it was just for a couple kilometers, luckily, and then you're back into the kind of forest again. So yeah,
Pick up the pace.
yeah, right.
And where
Other-
did you, oh, go ahead.
So what would you say, like, in terms of sort of outdoor type of environments in village and city, like, what's that balance? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that Porto was probably the biggest city that we were in and had the most congestion and
I would say it just was lovely because
Yeah.
they have the routes in such a way. Many of them are the original routes, and some are newer.
Mhm.
But they've kind of stayed true to that, and that area has kind of grown up over the last several, decades and centuries, really, where they just kept it. Some go through the middle of town, and it was fine.
Mhm.
Yeah. The ones that were right by the freeway, luckily there were very few, and the guidebook will tell you how long it is and how.
About the time you get tired of it, then you're back in the forest again. It seemed like
Yeah.
so.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
which is good.
So there's a lot of variety.
Lot of variety.
Much more than I would have ever guessed.
And once you got out of Portugal, there was a lot less cobblestone.
And there was a lot of
Yeah.
peaceful solitude, and so
Mhm.
where you really can just have quiet. That surprised me. It was nice.
And one more question from the list. Where did you stay in Santiago?
We stayed on a
This
house
great
that
little
was
bed and
turned into a
breakfast.
B&B.
It was called Casa Lois.
Casa Lois. Yeah, it was
And
great.
it's just up from the university, and it was it was great.
Yeah.
It was just off the square, but the square, so you could watch everyone come in and just see the joy on their face.
On the way, Casa Lois,
Yeah.
on the way to the university, and it was actually a psychiatry professor's home, right off campus.
Yeah.
Originally, and it was just beautiful.
And it was
A B&B, and we could walk right to the old town. It was like a half a mile, maybe. Yeah.
And then what also, a lot of the prices for like staying somewhere $40 or $60, that includes breakfast, includes an amazing
Mhm.
meal, it often includes refreshments, and so, I mean, that also just kind of pleasantly surprised me.
Mhm.
So you didn't have to deal with bunk beds at all?
No, and I called the lower bunk, so I wasn't too worried about it.
I had the booking app, so.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the temperatures were up in the 90s, and you guys are doing some pretty long distances.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Carrying packs. Did you have a problem with cramping, or did you have to take any supplemental electrolytes?
Oh, good question.
That's one of the reasons we brought that Tiger
That
Tail
foam roller
for the.
is a lifesaver for
acid.
getting all that lactic acid out of your muscles, so that it helps with cramping.
And then I
used
brought the electrolytes as well, because
From what's
with that
that
much from Hammer Nutrition.
Hammer Nutrition, yeah.
And then we
yeah.
use them for biking as well
Yeah.
as for longer hikes.
It was only one hot day, I will tell you. It was one hot day, and then it seemed like the rest of it was pretty reasonable. So maybe we just got lucky. But,
And we
yeah.
stretched every morning too.
Mhm.
And then we stretched during the way.
It took us a while to get ready in the morning because we're wanting to do the foam roller and do stretching and a little yoga. And then you're trying to like pack up the clothes that you had washed and get ready to go again. Yeah.
Nice.
And have coffee.
I think we have time for one more question. And
You stayed mainly in the hotels, did you ever stay in an albergue, and did you bring like sleep sacks or any bedding? with
We
you?
brought them, we carried them all across Portugal, and then we never used them.
Thanks to Marsh and
I
Tom,
know,
we
yeah,
borrowed theirs,
we borrowed
never
yours.
used them.
Mhm.
So we carried that in our rain ponchos
Mhm.
and never used
Mhm.
them. But we did everything from apartments to little inns to hotels, and you know, we just were kind of value conscious along the way. And then once we realized that, oh, that price includes breakfast or sometimes a meal, or otherwise get. One or two had the meal included for dinner.
One had dinner included. too,
Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And you washed all your stuff out by hand.
By hand, yeah.
Everything by hand. So the quick drive was great. Everything was quick drive. So except
we
for the socks. Sometimes I had to
traveled
carry
light.
socks with clips on the back or something because they wouldn't dry as fast.
That's one more tip. Get
Yeah.
the double socks, the 2 layered socks, because they really do help prevent blisters. So that's
Yeah,
one more
that one.
question.
Just sort of, you mentioned several times the cobblestones. I mean, they're nice to look at, and they're pretty, but they're hard to walk.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
I mean, you have the same problem. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to watch every football to get
Yeah.
on the right one.
Especially after mile 10 or so, and you're
Yeah.
starting
Yeah.
to get a little tired, maybe.
So in Porto, cobblestones, the boardwalks, of course, were just regular boardwalks.
The library will close in 30 minutes. The
And
cash
that's
register is closed. Restrooms, computers, and wireless close in 15 minutes.
That's our
But yeah, that's our key. All right, thank you. Buen Camino.
I have a question about your backpack.
So I have